withdraw from life whilst living it. That's what made it possible for colonization, for people to engage in a catastrophic elimination of people like in Gaza, like they did the Khoi and the San, or like they did in Rwanda. The pedagogies of the future in relation precisely to the teaching profession have to remember that as a starting point. That what we educate in us is the death drive. What we educate is the human spirit. What we educate is the human soul. We're not training. We're not just saying 1 + 1 is 2 as a sum. We're doing something else to the child when we do that. So, a lot of keynote speakers, I'm told they must have touched on this subject. The defense of teaching ourselves. Human freedom, the ultimate aim and the ultimate locomotive of human freedom is that we are able at all times to be responsible for ourselves. That responsibility is a pedagogical relationship. So in as much as we welcome these innovations to make teaching better, to make research better, we dare not surrender our freedom to technologies. You can then imagine these human beings who are going just to be taught by machines. They may not understand tragedy. They may not understand a figure of speech in which a person says, "Let us dress to kill," where you are actually not inviting somebody that they must go and kill. Where you say, "Dubuli, bulu," and once you are outside of that culture, you might not get that nobody's arming themselves to kill white people. That there's no such a policy. That cultural element lies that poetic spirit. And you are teachers, you should get that. Now, where is South Africa now? I propose to all of us that there is a big crisis that is going to collapse us as a country. A ticking time bomb. It profiles itself these days with a huge anti-constitutional campaign. A number of people who are trying to convince us that South Africa's constitution doesn't come from African people, doesn't come from black people, and that it is a hindrance to the developmental success of the country. These people say, for instance, the sentence "South Africa belongs to all who live in it" represent an infiltration of the liberation struggle. I mean, have these people not heard of Dr. Tuma and Z.K. Matthews's Africa's Claim? A response to the Atlantic Charter, the Bill of Rights, that was already written by an ANC that had Africans only in 1942, long before the Freedom Charter. This constitutional order that we have must not be surrendered to historic revisionists who want to cast us out as though the document, which is an intellectual heritage of what some of the greatest minds to have ever lived, not just in the continent, but on earth. The second crisis is voter apathy. South Africans are retreating from party politics. Over the last 3 national elections, voter turnout has decreased by a consistent 8%. 8%. It's standing at 58% of the registered voter population. But if you take the people who deserve to vote in the country, it's already below 50%. When less than 50% of the people who are above 18 show up to give government a mandate, such a government cannot say that it has a legitimate mandate. You can't sit in parliament with the bravery of a chicken and think you've got a mandate, call the shots all everywhere, when the people that turned out to vote for you are less than 50% of the population. Only 16 million or so people voted last year. 16 million. There are 60 million South Africans. There are 35 million deserving people to vote. Only 16 million voted last year. Our democracy is facing a real crisis, and that crisis essentially is the crisis of legitimacy. What happens the day, let's say, only 10 million people vote? The rest of us don't vote. Will we respect the voted people? We can't, because they don't have a mandate. What happens as things fall apart, as municipalities like the one we are at here cannot pick up papers, and citizens in the country are in retreat. Municipalities are falling apart because of nepotism, corruption, and theft. There are two possibilities. The first one is that you have surrendered the country largely to a caste of consultees and semi-illiterates. Semi-illiteracy is not quite a person, Professor, who can read and write, but is a person whose approach in life is that once I've got a master's, I no longer have to know. They survive with very peripheral, limited knowing, because their ethos in life is driven by short-termism. They gotta get results now. Now your lives, all of you here, I propose to all of you at this moment, are being run by a cast of consultants with a commitment to being semi-illiterate. There are no big questions to these people. They don't read, they don't research, and yet the proposition of education, when I say I've got a PhD, what it really means is that I know that I don't know. They have got all types of accolades, including the ones who are going to be awarded tonight. I hope you know that award means we appreciate that you know that you don't know. And as long as you are alive, you are in search of answers. The second crisis is the crisis of economic stasis in South Africa, developmental crisis of joblessness, of growthlessness, and of deindustrialization. I propose to all of us that this problem is caused by the fact that the big industrial capitalists, particularly finance capital, has no confidence in this country for the past 30 years. And they've been on an investment strike. They will not invest in industries that create jobs, because it's much more difficult to build a factory where the returns are going to only come out in 20 years, because you don't believe in the possibilities of this democracy. So what do? You keep your money in speculative finance, because in case something happens, you just click a button and move to Australia. That's the first part of the problem. The second part of the problem is this consorti caste, this bunch of consorties, whose relationship relationship to government resources is defined by self-enrichment. Nothing else. Meaning these people are really businessmen and women whose business model is using political power for self-enrichment. That's their business model. They invent nothing. They don't have products in any shelves. They are not worried about innovation like you are. They are just worried about their holidays in Dubai, their Gucci's, their mansions at Waterfall Estate. The last crisis is the crisis of leadership. What is our crisis? What is this crisis of leadership in South Africa? I don't want to speak all night, but I propose again that the crisis of leadership is caused by this retreat of the righteous. If you are smart, if you are good, why is your life run by an idiot?
Oh Lord, have mercy.
Now, South Africans, let's be honest now. All of us here in the tables. Why are idiots, criminals, playing circles on us? If you say you are the righteous, if you say you are the political or the black intelligentsia, the African intelligentsia, the South Africa's intelligentsia, why are the institutions of the state run by idiots? Why is your life why are the best amongst us at the back? And that's the beginning of a leadership crisis. It's right here. It's not out there. It's with us tonight. My closing statement then is that education is at the center of disarticulating this problem of the crisis of education. Now, you know, I'll give you an example. In the Eastern Cape, we get these numbers that every year, for the last 3 years, in excess of 200 teenagers, 200, excess, sometimes 250, sometimes 230 something. But amongst them, about 98 are kids who fall pregnant between the ages of 10 and 14. Now, who sleeps with a 10-year-old? Who sits with a pregnant 10-year-old for 9 months? Ke mang a behang ngwana wa 10 years setswetse? Well, the numbers go higher. The 17-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, more VUT, professor. But more VUT. Hasika STD, the pregnancy, you go gay. So, you're killing our futures. There's no future. The disruption of schooling is not only poverty, it's sexual exploitation. So I get people on the show to answer this question for me. Okay, education department, what are you doing? Like for instance, a teacher beats up a child. What do you do? No, I call the parent. If I start beating you up, don't you call the police? Because that's a crime. It's called assault. I can't call the police. I must call the parent. Huh? If a child starts stabbing a child in school, or a teacher takes a rod and beats children, what do you do? we passed that. I'm building up an argument. Okay, that's fine. When you hear your 10-year-old primary school child is pregnant, what happens in that situation? Kuyahlawulwa inkomo ezi-2 or imbuzi. Ngahlawulela abantwana abanga-10 years. There's a crisis right there. So apartheid gave us Bantu education. The Bantu Education Act got into play 1953 also. 1956, Maurice Isaacson. It was an apartheid high school. 1963, Naledi High. It was an apartheid Bantu education school. 1976, these schools, because of teachers, produces theatre machine. They produce the people who undermined the logic that Africans must be educated for only unskilled labor. They must be collectively, culturally damnified. Teachers stood right at the belly of a Bantu education technology that was supposed to destroy and damnify the black child. They stood at the center of that beast and produced a new human being. The first people who are going to save us from South Africa's collapse are the teachers. Don't let anybody undermine this profession. Don't let anybody count this profession out. Protect it with everything that you have, from incompetent, from parasites who enter it because they are looking for jobs, they bribe principals, but they do not have the calling of being educators. They get in a classroom and they contribute to the breaking of the African spirit. Protect the excellence of this profession, because it is this profession that collapsed apartheid. This profession must take it upon itself that the new leader leads its machine of our generation, who must answer the problems of the African continent, the problems that are facing South Africa. Who's going to do decolonization? Meaning you don't answer European problems. You answer the problems of South Africa, of the continent, scientifically. Those people who are going to give us that, I tell you now, are the people with the privilege at the forefront of the young minds. When you get into those classrooms, carry the entire country on your shoulders, knowing that at all times in front of you is a possibility for a South Africa and an Africa that is prosperous, that is at peace with itself, that can truly meet the renaissance promised by our forefathers. Every time you get in that classroom, you carry with you every seed for the renaissance of the African continent. Thank you very much.